Hey guys, what's up? Today I'm going to show you how to modify your Nerf Fortnite pistol from this into something a little more like this. We're going to start by disassembling the blaster. For this you're going to need a small Phillips head screwdriver. I also recommend something to put all the screws in. This is magnetic so you won't lose them, but you can use whatever you have available. Two of the screws are slightly longer. They go in these two ports up here, and then up here, closest to the end strike attachment point. The rest of the screws are the same size, and there are no hidden screws under any of the shell features. It should just open once you've removed all the screws. Pause the video now if you need reference for where any of the internal components go when you're reassembling the blaster. The internal magazine component and then the breech should lift right out of the blaster, as you see here, revealing the spring. It's quite a funky looking tapered spring, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to replace this. Might be able to put in a spring spacer, however. Lifting out the plunger assembly, it's pretty easy to take apart after that. The only thing is there's a couple of small tabs that hold on this ring at the back, which prevent you from pulling the plunger head out of the back. I was just playing around with it for a bit, and it actually seems like the floating plunger head has a pretty good seal on the tube. In the version that I have, you can test this by taking your finger, plugging the top, taking your other finger, pushing at the bottom, and seeing if any of the air escapes out the bottom without going at the top. So I'm really not going to mess with this too much. I'm just going to wash it off for when I re-grease it. This one, I'm going to remove the air restrictor, so I'm going to start by removing this O-ring, setting it aside for later. Like I said, washing all those pieces off for when I re-grease them. For the air restrictor, I'm going to be taking a 3/8 inch drill bit, just using it from the backside with a clamp and a drill. If you're younger, I would recommend seeking an adult's help for this part. So I'm going to clean it up a tad more, but as you can see, it's now a straight shot straight through that front part of the plunger assembly. This next step is optional. I'm going to paint the blaster. It looks like all the different shell color pieces come off, so it should make it for a pretty easy paint job. For that, I'm going to need to remove the remaining internal components, and then we'll disassemble the shell, and then we will prime and paint it. This brown piece actually appears to be solvent welded on, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. The handle and the scope and some of the other black parts all come off individually, so I'm probably going to keep the black parts black and then paint the other ones. Due to the fairly realistic nature of this blaster, I'm going to be keeping the paint job light so that's obvious that it's a toy, and I'm also going to be keeping the orange bits orange so that it's easily recognizable as such. I'm going to do a light blue and white paint job and then probably some weathering towards the end. So we're going to start by washing off the shell, giving it a primer coat, using some flat gray primer which will promote adhesion a bit, and then like I said we'll do the white and blue, and then some dry brushing after perhaps. Okay, hopefully it stays light for a little bit longer. I finished my priming, waited about 2 hours, and now I am onto my color painting. So as you can see, the handle I did in white, the main body and the slider I also did in blue. So I'm going to do another coat or two, let that dry, then I'm going to tape off some sections to do some white. Okay now, so it's been a day, and the base coat is completely dry, so I'm going to take some masking tape and mask off an area where I want to paint white. So in this case I want to do this middle plate area that actually didn't attach, but I thought it would. So I'm going to tape all around the edge of that with this tape, and then use some newspaper to cover the big areas. And then after that I can spray it again, and only that section will be painted white. So I ended up just using tape, but now you could sort of see what I'm going for. Now when I spray paint it white, just a singular striped section will be white, and the remainder of the shell will stick to being blue. So now when we peel this off, it should be about what we want, pretty much. So here's what our blaster will approximately look like without all the orange bits. You can leave it clean if you like. I prefer a little bit more of a worn look, so what I'm going to do is take a little bit of black and silver acrylic paint. I'm going to put it on a wide paintbrush like this guy, and then I'm going to wipe most of it off and then just very gently go over some of the edges, and that'll give it a few fake scratches and things like that, which will make it look a bit more worn. Then after that I'm going to go over the whole thing with a matte clear coat, and then we should be good to reassemble. So here's a quick shot of the externals with the slight weathering done and then the matte clear coat. Okay, now that it's time to put everything back together, I did notice that this particular O-ring between the main plunger and the barrel itself is a little weak, so I put about 2.5 wraps of this white Teflon tape under that just to improve the seal a bit. Now it's time to re-lubricate everything. I'm going to be using Super Lube. You want anything that's rubber safe, pretty much should work okay, so not anything like WD-40 that'll degrade the rubber. You want something rubber safe. One thing I did notice while testing different springs with this blaster is that this piece has actually come loose over time, probably because I removed the air restrictor or because the glue is kind of weak, but either way I'm going to be washing it off, sanding the inside surface a bit, and then I'll just be super gluing it back together, so it should be ready to go. One last thing I like to do is, especially with painted blasters, lubricate any moving areas. So the section in here, I'm going to take a little bit of this Teflon silicone lubricant and I'm going to apply it to the shell. That'll make it a bit smoother in terms of priming and should make the paint last a bit longer. I also didn't quite find a perfect replacement spring. This one is fairly weak, however it sits on the outer lip of the floating plunger head. I didn't find one that was the weird shape of the original one, but it seems to work okay. I think you can get decent performance with the stock spring as well, however. So this is the blaster totally put back together. I couldn't really find a proper spring to do a spring replacement, so when I chronographed it before and after, I was getting mid-60s before, which is a little low to be honest, and then now I'm getting about upper 70s. I got about 78 average and about 64 before, so it is a slight improvement. However, most of this mod turned out to be cosmetic. If I end up finding a spring that's a good replacement, I'll make a follow-up video. However, for now, like I said, this is pretty much going to be mostly a cosmetic mod. I decided not to paint the barrel extension because it just sort of hinders performance, but if you want to, obviously you can. I would just recommend keeping orange for the tips. As always, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video.